All right, everyone. We are now going to take what we know how to do with solving systems of equations. Sorry, I'm closing a door here. Solving systems of equations using elimination as our technique, and we're going to apply that to a word problem. So, in this word problem, Cheryl and Jackie work at an ice cream shop. Cheryl earns $9.25 per hour and Jackie earns $8.75 per hour. Hopefully, we can assume that Cheryl has worked there longer than Jackie, therefore making more money than her. During a typical week, Cheryl and Jackie earn $334.75 together. That means their combined wages. One week, Jackie doubles her work hours and the girls earn 466. How many hours does each girl work during a typical week? Okay, so what we have to know a couple of things. First of all, this is an old problem. Most people don't make those kind of wages anymore, right? Which is a good thing because it's not very much. Second thing we need to know is we need to know how do you calculate a wage? Well, to calculate a wage, you take whatever your hourly pay is, right? And so you would take your pay and you multiply it by how many hours you work, right? So if I'm making $9.25 per hour, if I'm Cheryl and I'm making $9.25 per hour, and let's say that I work 2 hours, you would just take those and multiply those, and you would get, okay, I'm making $18.50 per hour, or not per hour. I made $18.50, right? So you can figure out how did we get to $334.75 by figuring out that you take the number of hours they each work, multiply it by their wage, and add them together, right? So that helps us determine our variables. So we're going to say X is the number of hours that Cheryl works, right? Cheryl works. And then Y is the number of hours Jackie works. All right? And now we know that in the second line, they say, or I guess it's the third line, we see that Jackie doubles her work hours. But let's not worry about that right now. Let's set up that first equation. All right? So if I'm going to figure out how do I get to 334, right? 334.75. I know that I get that by taking the number of hours Cheryl works and multiply it by Cheryl's salary. And Cheryl's salary is $9.25. So that's going to be just 9.25x, right? And then Jackie, it's going to be the same thing. Plus, because this is their combined earnings, right? The combined earnings. So 875 times y. So this is my first equation. This will tell me in a typical week, these two things together will tell me what they will earn, and we're saying in a typical week they earn that 334, right? So that's good. All right, now we need two equations. Whenever you always need the same number of equations as you have variables when you're solving for unknown variables. So if you're solving for one variable, you only need one equation. If you're solving for two variables, you have two equations. When you're in Algebra 2 and you're solving for three variables, you'll need three equations. So we need a second equation. And the 1 week Jackie doubles her work hours and the girls earn 466 is our second equation. So I know that in that other week, right, that atypical week, they make 466 together. It doesn't say anything about Cheryl, so Cheryl's doing the same thing. Cheryl's doing 925x. And it says that Jackie doubles her work hours. So what that means is she's still making $8.75 per hour, but instead of her work hours being Y, if she doubles them, double them would be 2y. So we're going to multiply that by 2y, right? That's what double means. Multiply it by 2. And so now what we're going to do is we are going to simplify this bottom equation here. All right, and I'm just going to take this and I'm going to rewrite. I'm just going to go 875 times 2. Let's figure out what that is, right? And that's 1750. All right, and so we're going to take our little eraser tool and we're just going to fix this little bit right here, and we're going to write it as 1750y. And hopefully that made sense how I got to that, right? Because it was 2y, so you just multiply your coefficient by your 875 to get 1750. Now, I am going to subtract. Now, in this one, because we're dealing with money and we're dealing with decimals, I am going to take this one and I'm going to move it down here. All right? And you'll see why in a second, because I don't like dealing with negative money. All right? So, all I'm doing is copying the top equation so that it is down below. Right? Now I'm going to start my elimination process here, right? So because we have 925 in both equations and they are both exactly the same coefficient, I will have to subtract the bottom equation from the top equation. So 925 minus 925 gives me my 0. 1750 minus 875 is just 875, right? That's what's nice about this one. And then when I do this, let's put my zeros there, and let's do a little manual subtraction here. This becomes 9. So 9 minus 7 is, so that was 10. It becomes 9. This is going to become 5 right here. 9 minus 7 is 2, 1, 3, 1. So we should have $131.25 equals 875y. So now, let's divide both sides by 875, all right? So 875, I'm going to find my calculator here and see what we get. So I go 131.25 divided by, you should hear me tapping my keys on my phone right now, 15. So y equals 15. So now, what that means, okay, is that in a typical week, Jackie works 15 hours. Okay? So that's good. So now it says how many hours does each girl work. So I got to figure out how many hours Cheryl works. So we're going to have to take this and we're going to have to put this 15 in for y into one of the equations. So let's just use the lower, our original equation. So we're going to go 9.25, or 9 and 25 hundredths x, plus, so 875 times 15 equals 334.75. And I don't have to recalculate this 875 times 15 because I just did this problem. It's 131.25. That's what's great about this. All right? So plus 131.25 equals 334.75. Sorry, I'm going into the white now. So that means that I'm going to subtract 131.25 from both sides, right? It's the same process, even though the numbers are not nearly as welcoming, right? 0, 5, 3, 0, 2. So I have $203.50. So now let's pull up the calculator again and divide, and you should get 22 hours. All right, so to answer the question, Cheryl, 22 hours, and Jackie, 15. All right, so there we go. That's how that works. We got to exercise our brain a little bit, learn about how wages work, and even if it's an old example, but it's still calculated the same way, right? Hopefully the numbers for the dollars per hour are higher now, but yeah, that's how it works. I hope this is helpful to you, and enjoy.